What's up everybody, I'm quickly interrupting ahead of this video. Welcome to the channel of course, but quickly wanted to shout out the Signal group we have, which is a group in which I share all of my trades. For example, also this maker trade that we took over the course of this week. But we also, for example, bought Bitcoin at 101,000, which hopefully it's still trading higher at this point of time, but it went to 107,000. But I also released a new trading guide in which I fully explain one of the main strategies that I use to trade. So not only will you get profitable signals, you're also able to learn how to become a profitable trader yourself. So if you want to join, if that sounds interesting, links will be down in the description. For now, enjoy the video. Bye. Good morning everybody, welcome back to Cilinix Crypto and welcome to this weekend update on XRP. Hope you're all doing great first of all, hope you're having a great start of the weekend and welcome to this new full video. We'll talk about everything you need to know about XRP. I'll try to keep it a little bit more on the higher time frames, right? So a little bit more of a long-term analysis. So we'll also take a look at some other factors, some other variables that I think impact the price of XRP over the next, let's say, 2 months or at least the next couple of weeks. And that's also for the reason that, you know, on the short term, when we're talking about XRP right here, like it's just incredibly correlated to Bitcoin. And in general, the entire altcoin market right now is just very dependent on the fundamentals, on the news, right? And that is something I don't like to say because that means that I cannot really do a full prediction on what I expect from XRP. But that is the truth, right? On the lower time frames, what's going to happen is just very dependent on what happens mainly right now. Well, generally with the fundamentals in the world, right? So that's economic, but also political circumstances and fundamentals, but mainly right now what's going to happen with Israel and Iran. Right, and that is something, like I said, I cannot predict. So short term, that could create a lot of volatility. However, I think on the higher time frames, and that has always been the case with escalations like this and with fundamentals like this, it rarely changes the outlook on the higher time frames. And what I told you in the last 2 days as well is that, you know, short term it remains uncertain. And what I said yesterday is that, you know, short term I would actually expect the prices to still dip down lower. And I would expect the worst, and that is still what I would say on the lower time frames, right? On the lower time frames, would I long XRP right now? Because technically it looks quite good to long XRP right now, I'd say. But I wouldn't do it just because of the uncertainty. But that's only on the lower time frames, right? I think on the higher time frames, absolutely nothing has changed for XRP. We're still in this beautiful consolidation right here between, let's say, 1.95, although the value area low, my apologies, is at 2.07, and then the value area high at 2.6, with the range highs, I would say, a little bit higher towards 2.7, 2.8. So that range is not broken. And I also do not see a reason for that range to be broken. All right, we're holding the value area low, which normally isn't even that strong of a support level, which I've said quite a few times in the last week. But I mean, if you haven't heard it, you need to know that. Normally it's not that strong. So the fact that we're holding that, although it's confluent with the 200 EMA, is good news, right? So that means that we still have a buffer here to the downsides. But outside of that, there's two things which I've also spoken about this week. But first of all, XRP BTC is getting into some very, very strong support levels. It's in a downtrend right now, but I have reason to believe that we can actually get a strong bounce from this soon. And not only technically with some major support levels coming up, but no, I think fundamentally now that we're actually getting more and more, I wouldn't call it hype, but more and more momentum behind this Solana ETF, I think that also brings about more potential and also more momentum behind the XRP ETF, which I'm fairly sure we're going to get in 2025. Although, you know, short term they still have to deal with not necessarily the SEC but Judge Torres in this case to get that case over, which I do think is a prerequisite for getting that ETF. But I think that's fundamentally a reason for XRP BTC to at least find support. And that's great, right? Because that means that XRP is either going to hold support better or it's going to rally. Short term, like I said, can we still drop down lower? Yes, but I think ultimately that support level between 2.07 and 1.95 is a buy area and not a reason to be scared or to get more cautious. And then I expect to move into 2.4. But like I said, I mean, it's very hard to predict when that's going to happen because that move into 2.4 can only happen if all the fundamentals around the markets are quite good. So I'll keep you updated on that, but at least for now, I think this is what you need to know. So thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all in my next videos, and bye.